If you are at all aware of any art community on the internet, you are probably aware of the trend of, I wouldn't really call it a trend. It's been around for so long, at least from what I can see, that it's more like a tradition of redrawing things, either things you drew just a couple of years ago or things you drew as a child. Already on this channel, I have once before redrawn a thing I drew just a couple years ago. I will link that video in the description. It's just a speed paint with music, so no commentary there or anything, but yeah. I will link that in the description. The thing I'm doing today is I am going to be redrawing something I drew as a child. But when I came to the conclusion that I wanted to do this, I ran into a bit of a problem. See, I don't have much childhood art left, in the way that I have art that I made in art class and I have art that I made in an art club, which I can't exactly get to because I would pull down such a huge layer of dust, but that's neither here nor there. I I don't have any like fan art I made when I was like 12 or 13. I don't have any of that, embarrassing anime phase that so many artists go through that's not actually embarrassing. It's really kind of sweet to look at where they were then. I stopped drawing outside of things that compelled me to draw. Even I remember very vividly in the art club that I was in, I would just kind of sit there whenever it was like draw whatever, we don't have a thing to do right now. I would just kind of sit there and not really know what to do. I just couldn't make the images happen. My mind always drew a blank. I just stopped drawing, and I will get into why in a separate video, because that is a topic. Oh my god, that I will not be able to go off script for. This is completely unscripted. I will need a script for that video, or it's gonna be a fucking mess. This might be a fucking mess anyway. We'll see how it goes. So what I did was I picked out one of the things that I drew in art class. It was a assignment on silhouettes, and not exactly silhouettes, but implying a thing with like, well, it's basically silhouettes, but there's more to it with like the sunset scheme and blah blah blah. Um, so I picked that because that particular image, the drawing, the painting that I still have, has been hanging on my wall in my room for actual years. Since I brought it home from school, I have not taken it down from there. Don't know why, it's just still up there, it's been there forever. I have not redecorated my room, like, ever, pretty much, aside from getting rid of the dollhouse recently, and a new bed a couple of times. And some of the stuff I moved to get to my mom's place when my parents split. That's been the extent of my redecorating, pretty much. Yeah. So I chose that, and I decided to do that digitally because, well, A, I don't have any watercolors where I am right now, or even acrylics, and B, I don't do much traditional painting anymore. I mean, I have the basics of it down, but I'm not very good at it. So when you look at like this old thing, you'll notice that only one of the windows, or windows quote unquote, actually has any detailing on it, because I did that, the detailing, and then I very quickly realized as a tiny child that I did not want to do the rest of the windows, and I could not make the rest of the windows the shape I wanted them to. You can see one of them is slightly like squished. So I decided that the blank windows, and I guess the doorway too, probably the doorway too, they are all ghosts, which is why in this new one, you'll see at some point me add ghosts to the graveyard. I'm not exactly sure when that'll be because I haven't actually compressed like the footage into any kind of sped up version yet. Really, this was a very like quick spur of the moment thing. Like I wanted to do it, sure, but it ended up being like a lot faster than I'd anticipated. I basically just sat down and doodled it out and didn't do much like rearranging of the lines once I put them down, actually. Which I guess makes sense, especially with like the tree silhouette. That's one thing that's like really easy to do because trees come in such a variety of like shapes and branch growth and all that like you can pretty much make a believable tree very easily, actually. And I switched out the clock on the original for this like bell and bell tower thing instead. And other than that, I tried to keep as much as possible to like the original of what I did as a child. And I'm pretty happy with the results, actually. I think it looks nice. There's a sort of sadness to the fact that I can do this with like something like an art class assignment, but I won't be able to do it with like any kind of actual art I made when I was like a child or a teenager. Like, I'm not saying this isn't actual art, it's a watercolor painting, it's art. It's a child's art, but like anything I made of my own volition without like any prompting from any kind of teacher figure, that does hold a certain sadness to me. And I know I used to like quote unquote draw my own characters back in the day, but not in that way where you like you see that, oh, this is a child drawing this. I would like use bases and stuff, with like tracing them onto paper. I would trace a base onto paper and then like plaster traits on top of that. And none of those pieces really feel like personal or me because I didn't decide on the face, I didn't decide on the pose, I just decided on like the hair and the clothes. So it was basically like playing a dress-up game, at least that's how it felt to me. And I'm not saying that if you use bases, this is how it has to feel to you. I'm just saying that this is how it feels to me now, looking back on that stuff. And I'm not even sure I have any of that art left. I don't know where it went, but I do not have it anymore. Whoops. Especially this gap between, like, I want to say age 6 and age 13? 14? Somewhere around there was the first time I used a base. Like, those years where I like didn't draw anything of my own volition. That just makes me sad to think about, and as I said, I will make a video on why that happened at some point later, but that is, as I said, a topic for later, because I will need a script for that, and I will need to think through carefully what I say, because no matter what I do with this, I'm going to end up shit-talking some people in my life. Specifically my dad. So, because, you know, unfortunate truths and all that. So I want to be careful about how I go about that. But yeah, anyway, that's all for today, and hope you enjoyed this. I ended up drawing this in like maybe a little less than an hour if the recording time is anything to go by. And I had fun with it, and liked the result well enough. So yeah, thank you, and I will see you next time.